Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone here in person today. Granted, I can only see about half your faces, but it'll do for now. So, as you know, all of our lives have been turned upside down in the past year and a half, and I just want to thank Brad, Joe, and Suzanne for everything that they've done to keep church going. And as I was walking in today, this is the first time it's kind of felt like we've been back at church for real church, and I'm really appreciative of that. So as I sat down to write this sermon, I started to think of all the times that I've stood in this very spot, or that spot over there. I believe the first time was when I was asked by Suzanne after choir practice one Wednesday afternoon if I would like to do a reading at one of the Christmas Eve services. As I waited for my mother to pick me up, I rode up the elevator to her office to look at what I would be getting myself into. 7-year-old Emma was much more confident than the Emma who stands before you today. That Emma didn't hesitate to say yes, and I thank her every day that she made that impulsive decision. I can remember the first time I sat down to read that lesson, and to say the least, I was overwhelmed. A little background for your sake. I have never been an amazing reader, writer, or speller. I was always in the lowest reading group, and in 5th grade, I was even in an integrated class that had to meet on the other side of school. So of course, this trend has continued into my teen years. I've chosen to take mostly STEM-related classes at GPS. So as I look down at this copy of Isaiah that was printed out for me to practice, it's safe to say that I might have been regretting my decision. As I look down, my eyes immediately scan the reading for the most difficult part. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with the joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder. For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. For all the boots of the tramping warriors and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. For a child has been born to us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the host will do this. Now, just to reiterate, this was an extremely daunting task for me. So as I read this lesson now, I am met with the realization of just how much I have grown over the past decade. The next time I remember standing up here was during one of the children's Christmas pageants, and I had been cast as one of the narrators, which is a nice change of speed from crawling down the aisle as an animal, so it was pretty nice being up here. On multiple occasions after that, I had been asked to read during various services and evensongs. As I started to grow older, it became less of a worry-free activity and began to cause me anxiety, and I would hope that I wouldn't be chosen as a reader for the next few weeks. I can remember multiple Sunday mornings sitting in the kitchen with my mother practicing the reading for the 10:30 service. I would get frustrated when I didn't know how to pronounce certain words, and I would get upset when I would get corrected on a phrase that I had said correctly the previous time. I would practice with my mom's help until we had to leave the house, and would even read it a few more times on our way down East 7th Street. Secretly hoping we would catch every red light, but that's not that difficult of a task anyways. On a Sunday in which I was singing in the choir, I would ask the adult members to help me with certain words, probably 3 to 5 times before we left the choir room to process. And this morning, a lot of those names in that reading were very difficult, so I asked Joe in between the 8 and 10:30 services how to pronounce those. When I look back at these moments, I'd like to thank myself for never completely giving up, even when it came close to that, and continuing to participate in the services in this way. In 2017, I stood over there to read a poem that I had written in my 5th grade writing class for at my grandmother Nanny's funeral. It read, "I am the palm cross, the incense my mom breathes, the lector's words, the ash on your forehead, the stained glass window shining in the morning light, the morning bell ringing back and forth, the organ blasting with a joyful song, one of the kings that brings presents for our Savior, the congregation after a short sermon, the wine and bread on the high altar, the responses sung at evensong, the breaking of bread, the confession of sins, Easter Day, the empty chapel waiting to be used, the handbells on Christmas Eve, the chorister's prayer heard from the nave, the day we all live in peace, the donkey carrying Mary to Bethlehem, the cow in the barn, the one flame still burning." Looking back, I find it hard to believe that I actually wrote this. not only because of the fact that I don't like writing, but also because of the awareness and passion that I had towards St. Paul's even at that age. Of course, I know now what St. Paul's means to me, but I've forgotten just how long that I've been aware of it. As a child, I would spend hours here during St. Nicholas rehearsal, and would stay after when my sister had handbells. I would help out in the office, folding and stuffing bulletins, while my grandmother answered phone calls at the desk. I would come here during the summer for arts camp, and more recently volunteered at Vacation Bible School and arts camp. I spent countless hours here, and it's good to know that even as a child, I knew just how important this place was to me and my family. So, I would like to thank all of you for helping me thrive and prosper during my time here at St. Paul's. I want to thank Onetta for always keeping me guessing which hat she'll wear next, Patty and Calvin for always having a snack for me when I'm hungry, Shannon for never failing to ask me how I'm doing, Paul for honoring my request to sing Doe a Deer during all choir rehearsals, Hope for singing Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen with me, Brad for making me laugh when times are rough, Joe for being the best basketball player on mission trips, and finally, I want to thank my mom, grandparents, and aunt for giving me such a wonderful and beautiful place to worship.